Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast, where we're here once again to help educate you so that you feel comfortable and confident investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels. And if you want to understand how being a specialist can be the key to your financial freedom, then you are absolutely going to want to stay glued to this entire conversation. Because today's guest not only has over 25 years of experience in senior finance and accounting responsibilities when he was in the corporate world in high-tech companies in Silicon Valley, he's also spent a lot of time educating himself on becoming a passive investor to the point that he actually walked away from the corporate world to go out and start his own company, which is Blue Elm Investments, LLC. And he is on a mission to bring institutional quality assets while providing high levels of service around the cornerstone of honesty, integrity, and transparency. And I am super excited to welcome to today's show, Mr. Todd Sulzinger. Todd, welcome to the show, man.
Oh, Billy, hey, I really am glad to be here and looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm sure of it. Listen, I always like to start off with a couple questions. And first and foremost, everybody knows I'm here in Barcelona, Spain.
Right.
Can you help us understand where in the world are you today, Todd?
Yeah, so I'm talking to you from Redwood City, California, which is halfway between San Francisco and San Jose in Northern California.
Okay, fantastic. Northern California once again. So I appreciate that, Todd. The other thing would really like for you to share with us, kind of help us understand, like, what is the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Oh, last 24 hours. Let me see. I would say that I had some really good conversations with potential investors and a potential business partner.
Oh, fantastic. We like that. We like that.
Great.
Being
Yeah.
able to bring value. Awesome. Perfect. So listen, Todd, I want to jump right into the conversation. And, as you have come to this point in your life, this point in your career as an entrepreneur, as an investor, sure that you've made lots of different decisions along the way. And I'd love for you to help the Going Long audience really get a sense of who you are, some of the things, experiences that you've had that have helped you to get to this point in your journey. So give us a little bit about, tell us a little bit more about you, Todd.
Sure. I grew up here in Northern California, went to San Jose State University, and soon after I graduated, got a job for a local networking hardware startup and went down the corporate path like I thought I should. And along with that, opened up my first, my 401k account to start investing, and just kind of, merrily went along the path, worked for quite a few different technology companies. With that first company I was with, I actually had the opportunity to get a job transfer to the UK. So I was based in the Oxford area for about 2.5 years. And during that time, got a chance to help open up offices in Berlin, Milan, and just south of Paris to help that company set up their accounting and administrative infrastructure. So I had some great experience there, moved back to the US, and just continue to kind of grow my career path over time. It was also during that time that I started to meet other people who were investing in real estate. And it was something that always seemed a little bit, scary and unknown, and, a lot of uncertainty about how to do that. And anyway, so, during that time of meeting a few people in that space, I just started to educate myself on how to invest in real estate, different types of real estate possibilities there were. Started to attend meetups and listen to podcasts, and eventually ended up buying single-family homes in Texas, which was, from here, it's about a 3-hour flight and thousands of miles away.
Wow. Fantastic, man. That is so that's a lot. I mean, from having taken the normal beaten path, right? You started in your 401k, then you had an opportunity to actually have an overseas experience out of Oxford in the UK, which I think is phenomenal. I guess even before I do that, what did you learn from that experience when you were living in Oxford and having a chance to work in Berlin and Milan and just south of Paris?
I think one of the biggest things I learned was just how different things are in other countries than they are in the U.S. In some ways there are similarities, and I think oftentimes Americans that travel overseas and work in European companies expect those companies and those employees to act as if they're American, and they're not, and there's cultural differences and obviously language barriers. So I think one of the big things I learned was to just be adaptable as possible to working in all those different environments.
Okay, fantastic. Appreciate you sharing that. And that's
Yeah.
something that, of course, I've been here in Europe for like 19 years, and it's always something
Yes.
that's important. And just to understand, because you're very fortunate to have that opportunity for 2.5 years to be able to live and understand the different parts of
Yes.
Europe. So thanks so much for sharing that.
Uh-huh.
And some things. So I mean, we go back to what you were talking about as well. You started to see you had the opportunity to be around people that were investing in real estate. You then started to take even more action where you began to attend meetups, and you started to also educate yourself listening to podcasts. You then went from actually theory to action. You made your first investment property, and you did that actually beyond your backyard is what I like to say. So you did that in Texas while you were living in California.
Yes.
That's pretty amazing. So I want to find out about that. And so there's kind of two things, Todd, because you are known as a guy who plays in a specific niche in the real estate space. And I really want us to dig into that. But before that, because there's some parallels that I see here, you spent over 25 years in the finance and accounting realms for a number of different startups. So kind of help us understand from the skills and talents that you developed there in that 25-year period. What are some of the same skills and talents that you're now using in the niche that you are enjoying in real estate?
Yeah, well, with my finance background, most of it was working in the financial planning and analysis area. So I was, building multi-year budgets, complex Excel models, with multiple variables, thousands of employees, different product lines. So that kind of financial analysis and modeling was just part of what I did, using Excel every day, creating reports for either investors or boards of directors or management teams. So that was something that was really easily translatable into analyzing many different kinds of real estate deals. And it is kind of funny. I know some people say, oh gosh, there's so many things I love about real estate, whether it's looking at deals or maybe it's talking to investors. But the spreadsheets, the analysis of the stuff that really scares me. But for me, that was just second nature. It's just, really easy for me, and in some ways, much less complex than a lot of the financial modeling that I did in my corporate life.
Well, so that really gives you, I would say, a competitive advantage, right? Because if that's something that is just what you did every single day anyway, it's just
right.
For you.
Exactly.
Awesome. So Todd, I really want us to help people understand. So that you have really made a name for yourself in what we call the mobile home park space. And so if you could talk to us a little bit about what attracted you to this part of the real estate world, and then I'm sure we'll have a number of other questions from there.
Sure. And I just wanted to take a step back a little bit as before I really wanted to decide to take the leap into building a business around helping investors passively invest in real estate. I kind of went through this journey through the stock market and just kind of getting tired of the volatility. I kind of went through this time period experiencing 2000 to 2010 that included the recession where, I had all these plans when my daughter was born in terms of investing for her college education. And if I just look back at the history of the stock market with the average returns, if I just invest this much, then I'll have, X amount of dollars by the time she graduates. And the thing is with the stock market, when you have all that variability, maybe over a long period of time, it averages out to a certain return. But depending on when you get in and out, it can affect you in a negative way. So that's kind of what was the big driver for me to move away and shift my investments away from the stock market, was to get rid of the volatility, not worry about trying to, pick the hot stocks or trying to buy at the bottom of the market, but looking for something that was, more tangible, more real, and had higher cash flow projections. So that led me down the path looking to what's a good thing to invest in. And I researched, in addition to mobile home parks, self-storage and apartments and groups of single family homes after my experience in Texas. And, really found mobile home parks to have a couple great attributes. One is they're really resistant to recessions. And we're seeing that now. It's an affordable housing. It plays in the affordable housing market. And, if you have families that are, trying to choose between a single family home or maybe a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, they can often find a mobile home that's going to cost less money. And it's something that they can have a little yard, drive up to their house, not have anybody on either side of them or above them or below them. So they can be a more attractive place for a family to live. And also, the returns are typically better than other multifamily assets. And also, they're not building any more of them. That's an interesting thing about mobile home parks in the U.S. is that municipalities typically don't allow zoning for new parks. And that's a combination of a stigma this kind of lasted historically in the U.S. against mobile home parks, as well as the property taxes that are generated typically aren't favorable for the city. So the zoning typically prevents new parks from being developed. And then oftentimes they're torn down in some of the bigger cities, especially here in the San Francisco Bay Area, because the land value is so high. Parks are sometimes purchased and then torn down and redeveloped into better use. So kind of a combination of the no new parks being built and some parks being torn down or redeveloped. It's actually a decreasing supply. So increasing need for affordable housing just through population growth and household formation, combined with decreasing supply, I think is a good combination.
I would say so. The good old laws of supply and demand, when they're in your favor, it's usually a really good thing, or actually always a good thing, especially when you're looking to add value for your investors and for yourself. Right. So I think that's fantastic. So just really being drawn to this specific niche within real estate, knowing that it is recession proof and knowing that it is also helping a need that is in the marketplace, which is really to provide affordable housing. And then you have the supply and demand dynamics. So these are reasons that once again would make a lot of sense that you're in this space. And I guess also too, because we're really working to help educate, right? And so you talked about something, and I know that we talk about, or I hear a lot about mobile home parks versus RV parks, right? Mm-hmm. And so kind of help us understand, are they the same? Are they different? What makes them different? And just so we can help to lay that baseline for everyone.
Sure. Yeah, I do have some investors ask me that when they're talking about my parks. Oh, do you have additional space? Might you be able to put RVs on the spaces? And it really depends. RV parks, especially in the resort space, are almost more equivalent to managing a hotel, where you have people possibly checking in on a daily basis, maybe staying there for a week, often more seasonal. So there's kind of the resort RV market that it would be more equivalent to a hotel. So the returns can be good. The kind of the monthly rent you might get from a space would be higher than you would on a home you would be renting. But then it does take more management, having somebody in an office all the time to be able to receive people coming in all day, being able to check them out. And the other side of the RV business is there are some long-term parks where somebody might have an RV that they place permanently in a space, similar to the way they would a mobile home. And so you'll see that definitely here in the Bay Area. There's mobile home parks local to where I am that might be 75% fixed mobile homes, and then the other 25% RVs that you could move, but actually if you see them, they have coverings around the wheels, planters outside, permanent steps getting in. I mean, they are essentially, sitting there for the long term. So those are kind of the two different sides of the RV business. And in terms of the way the infrastructure would be set up, it really does depend. The hookups are a little bit different. So if you had a park that was built as a mobile home park, it would take some effort to convert some of those spaces to RV parks. And then, the downside is, I know some people that shy away from those, is that your tenants can drive away overnight. So that's what one downside is, that with a mobile home that's fixed, they're not going to leave. Whereas somebody who's renting an RV space can drive off in the middle of the night without you knowing it.
Yeah, you want to. I'm sure you have things in place to minimize that as much as possible. So, but it is it's a reality of the business. So,
right.
And so that helps in terms of the difference, just the difference to be able to help once again educate and build that baseline.
One other place that you do see that is in some of the oil field regions of Texas. Sometimes you'll see very large RV parks, in Louisiana as well, where because there's such a need for housing, where you might have thousands of workers that flood into an area to work in some of these near where some of the oil fields are located, can often provide really great returns. I have seen some downside recently, where when there is a drop in oil prices, we've seen that sometimes those can dry up really quickly. So there is some risk when they're kind of a one-story town. But when there is demand for those RV parks, the returns can be fantastic.
Okay. So one of the things I want to maybe pivot just a little bit. So as it relates to Blue Elm Investments, right? You are also now working with a number of investors. And I'm just curious, because you've carved out this niche, you have investors that you are working with. What is the biggest challenge or the biggest problem that the majority of your investors are having when they want to connect with you?
Do you think in terms of just connection in general, or kind of understanding mobile home parks, or which
just
side?
Really, I guess just in general, they come to you, they have a challenge that they're trying to solve. And I guess what is that challenge that you're seeing that the majority of the people that you are meeting, first off, kind of what are the reasons that they're coming to you and talking to you and want to know more about?
Yes.
What mobile home?
I got it. Good. Yeah, it makes sense. I think for me, it's that connection between knowing that real estate is a great tool to build long-term wealth, with how do I do that? Sometimes people only hear the bad stories, like, oh, I heard somebody who bought a dozen condos in Las Vegas back in 2008 and lost all the money, or had a bad experience with a tenant. So I think it's that mental leap between I know it's a good thing, right? If I see somebody that I know owns apartment buildings or a cluster of single family homes, it's like, okay, I know they've done well. Those products have appreciated and they're getting cash flow from those, but how do I then make that leap? So that's kind of why I found Blue Elm, was to try to bridge that gap, to allow somebody to say, okay, here's a way for you to get into investing in real estate. We can go in as a group and buy these assets, in my case, mobile home parks, together, and you can reap the benefits from real estate investing, but I can take care of looking for the projects, dealing with financing, doing the due diligence, dealing with tenants and property management. So that's kind of my role, is to kind of bridge that gap, to allowing them a way to get into real estate investing without, doing all that heavy lifting.
Okay. So they can continue to do what they do best, and at the same time have your skill and your team do what you do best, and the bridge is in between. So everybody is able to
yes.
get as close to their goals as possible. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. It makes people feel good. In my case, I know my investors might know, okay, I own whatever the percentage, like 5 or 10% of like this mobile home park in Georgia, for example. So, the fact that they know they're diversified and they have like direct ownership in this tangible asset is something that they like once they actually make their investment.
Perfect. And so you started taking us in that direction, right? And you're in California right now. We just established that. And you've now just started talking about a different state. So you've made a conscious decision to do something that we love here at the Going Long podcast, which is to go beyond your backyard. Really help us understand, because it's not necessarily something that everyone thinks is the normal thing to do. What kind of help us understand what states are you in, or what geographies are you in, and why in the world decide to go beyond California?
Yeah, well, I guess I got a test run by buying the single family homes in Texas. That was a big mental leap for me to do that, but I took a field trip with the real estate guys back in 2011, I think it was. And we toured neighborhoods, we met property managers, insurance agents, different brokers, and went through neighborhoods. And I thought, oh, okay, like this is possible. I kind of see what these neighborhoods are like. And then eventually it got to the point where I did have or I still have actually a rental property in California, a couple hours from where I live. And I have a property manager. I don't see the property very often. A couple times a year, I'll drive by it and see that it hasn't burned down, that it's still there, but I can't go inside. And that was the exact equivalent of when I would sometimes travel to Texas and drive by one of my properties there. So for me, because I had property managers for both locations, it didn't feel any different. So because I had that experience of successfully managing properties remotely with property managers, it allowed me to much easier take that leap of buying mobile home parks outside of California. And the first parks I bought were in the state of Georgia, about an hour and a half outside of Atlanta.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. And I believe that you've also, now this is the mobile home park space, but outside of the mobile home park, that you've also have invested internationally as well?
I have, yes. I actually, through my retirement plan, I opened up a self-directed account, and I ended up acquiring parcels of a coffee farm in Panama and a cacao farm in Belize. I believe diversifying outside of my country is good. I think finding a way to invest not only in the currency that you're living in is a good idea, and also just the idea of investing in agricultural products for growth. I thought would be for me a good way to diversify.
Okay, fantastic. So that's an experience that you've had, you understand, you've seen the value in being able to diversify, not just geographically,
yes,
within the same country, but also outside of the country. You've gone through that yourself. You know what that's about. And okay, that's fantastic. So that is very good to know. What would you see, I guess, kind of coming back to the mobile home park portion, really wanted to understand if someone is thinking about mobile home parks versus maybe a larger multifamily, or like a self-storage, kind of why mobile home parks, or kind of what are some of the differences that a mobile home park could provide someone who's looking to have that as part of their portfolio?
Yeah. So, right. So the mobile home parks, I mean, they are a multifamily asset, but instead of like an apartment building where they're all stuck to each other and share a wall, they're just spread apart on a few acres of land. So I guess the differences are from a return standpoint. If you just look at the rent that you can charge for the home, and in the parks that I run, we as the mobile home park operator own most of the homes, versus some mobile home parks, the residents own their home and you just rent the individual space to them. So when I look at the rent that we can receive compared to the cost of each mobile home, it's higher than you find in the apartment space. So that was definitely one of the things, in addition to some of the other things we talked about, that attracted me to it. Similar, I guess, one of the things they talk about in the self-storage space is that when the economy is doing really well, people are buying more stuff and might have a need to store things and use storage units, and in a recessionary environment might have to downsize their home, but then also don't want to get rid of things and might use self-storage. So I think that's a good asset to be a recession-resistant asset. And so we had mentioned before, mobile home parks fall into that same bucket, where if somebody's looking to save a little bit of money in terms of where they need to live, or in the markets that I'm in, people might be paying between say $400 to $650 per month to rent the mobile home, versus in a similar market that might be $900 to $1,000. So for somebody in that say $400 to $600 range, you can have an individual, one person, a single person income, or even two people that are making near minimum wage that can still afford to pay the rent in those homes. Versus if somebody when the economy is doing well, might find a very nice apartment where it's several $1,000s a month, and if they have a decrease in income for whatever reason, might need to make a step down. So mobile home parks fill this really great, sort of great level in the affordable housing space, that even in a recessionary environment where either wages might decrease, or if somebody might only have one income earning a lower wage, there's still going to be demand in that market.
Okay, so I think that's great. So a couple of things just to highlight the fact that one, it is in a multifamily, because you're able to provide housing for multiple people on the same lot size, let's say. Mm-hmm. There's also the rent ratios are favorable, and it's something that is a recession resistant type of an asset. So there's going to be a need for that, I guess, all the time.
Right. And in the U.S., it's because of the cost of land and additional regulations, whether it's county regulations, new safety initiatives that might come into play. The cost of construction of housing in general across the U.S. has increased a lot in the last say 15 to 20 years. And what that's caused is that typically new construction for either homes or apartments are typically at the higher end, where a developer can earn more money if they're selling a much nicer, bigger home where they can offer more options versus a more entry-level home. Whereas in the mobile home park space, I see just across the country, there's probably hundreds of thousands of vacant lots or vacant homes that, as an investor group, we can come in and satisfy this huge need for affordable housing without having to jump through the hoops of actually starting any kind of ground-up construction. If we can just take the existing infrastructure that's sitting there across the country and either bring in used or new homes to fill the lots, or go through and rehabilitate existing homes that are in the parks that I've been acquiring, then it goes a long way towards solving the affordable housing crisis here.
Perfect. So once again, using a lot of the opportunities that exist in the marketplace, understanding that the cost to build or the cost to utilize what's already there and available can be done at a lower cost or price point, and could be potentially faster.
Yes, exactly.
A bigger impact in helping in terms of the overall affordable housing crisis. Okay. Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. So listen, Todd, there's a lot of things that we've talked about today, and I'm sure I would love to be able to have you back and talk and even go deeper, because I know that there's a lot of things that you could help us to understand about the mobile home park space and real estate in general. But I always like to kind of wrap up the show with our final 3 questions, but only if you tell me that you're ready for the questions.
Okay, I think I'm ready.
Okay, all right, cool. So the very first question, Todd, is, with me living here in Europe, it's one of the things I want to help our audience know some of the best, coolest European cities that are out there. And so I'd love to know from you, what is your favorite European city, either that you visited yourself or still on your bucket list?
Oh, let me see. I think when I visited Venice, I think that was the favorite city that I visited. I don't know if I'd go back, because I've just heard about how crowded it is and everything with the cruise ships that come into town. So I'm not sure if I would, choose to go back there as a favorite, but that was definitely at the top of my list. And I love the Cotswolds in the UK, just, out towards Cheltenham and towards Bath. I mean, it's just like such a beautiful part of the country.
Yeah, lovely. And actually going to Venice, when you talk about that, nowadays, since there's so few anything over there, they're seeing dolphins recently. So that's
really, I know now would be the perfect time to visit if we could go there.
Exactly. Okay, perfect. So thanks for that. Second question. We've all make lots of mistakes. I'm sure that you've made probably 1 or 2 or 100. And for those mistakes that you made, you paid full price for those mistakes, Todd. And one of the things we'd love for you to be able to pay it forward so others can take the learnings from those mistakes that you paid full price for. If you could think of one thing that you would want to share with someone today, what is the one lesson that you've learned through a mistake that you paid full price for?
I guess I don't know if it's really like a big mistake that I thought, oh God, I shouldn't have done that. But I think one thing I would say would be to move faster. I think that's one thing I wish I would have done earlier, was started earlier, educated myself earlier, had followed my gut feeling to actually follow what I knew where I am now, what my dream was to, invest in real estate and seek financial freedom. So I think instead of hesitating and wondering, I think that would be advice I'd give my younger self, would be to, start earlier and take a chance and just get out there and do it.
Okay, awesome. So move faster, do it sooner.
Yes.
Last question for the Going Long final three, and really want to help pay it forward once again. You are a reader. You enjoy reading. I'm sure that there's a book out there that has made a big impact on you. Todd, can you share with us a book that you would like to pay forward and recommend for others?
Sure. One that I just read last year that I was really impactful to me was a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. Mm-hmm. And he's a founder of Keller Williams Realty. And he kind of went through this process in his corporation of everybody's doing all kinds of different things, going in different directions. And he finally said, okay, guys, what if you could only do 3 things to move this business forward? And then he kept pressing him. What if you could only do 2 things? Okay, what if you could only do 1 thing? What is the one thing that's going to make everything else unnecessary or easier? And from that concept, he wrote this book called The One Thing. So I use that. I think about that every day, really looking at a long to-do list that everybody has. But if you look at that list and you think what is really the most important thing that you could do to move your life or move your business forward. So it can be challenging. So there's a lot of things that are important that you'd like to do, but there are certain things that are really critical that if you do them, it can make life easier.
Okay, awesome. So The One Thing. So thanks for that as well. And you know what? That pretty much wraps it up with the Going Long final three. Todd, right. I really want to thank you so much for all that you've shared with us today. I was talking about from the very beginning, being able to have a strong finance background, being able to use a lot of those same skills and talents to find a passion in the real estate space. First of all, having done long distance investing from California to Texas, and then from there really finding a passion in the mobile home park space, which has been fantastic. And now even to the point where you are able to continue to go out and help to educate others so that they can move forward and closer to their goals. And you're doing that through Blue Elm Investments. And because of all this goodness that you've shared with us, Todd, probably just like me, so many people are like, how in the world do I get in touch with Todd? I want to reach out to this guy. I want to talk to him. I want to talk to his team. So Todd, help us understand, what is the best way for our Going Long audience to contact you, to be in touch with you?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks a lot for your time today, Billy. It was great. I love to talk to investors about real estate investing, transition from a corporate world into starting your own business, as well as anything about the mobile home park space. So they can reach me at my email is Todd, Todd, at blueelminvestments.com. And then my website is www.blueelminvestments. That's blue like the color, elm like the tree, investments.com.
All right. Awesome. So everyone, you heard it, Todd at blueelminvestments.com. You can also check out blueelminvestments.com. And we are going to make sure that we include everything in the show notes. Whether you're listening to this or you're watching it, we'll have a way to get in touch with Todd pretty quickly. So listen, also, I know that for those of you that are watching and are listening, if you want to continue to help our community grow, why don't you go out and share today's episode with 2 of your friends? And then that way you help our community grow. We're very, very thankful for that. And once again, for today's guest, Todd, really want to thank you for being here, for sharing your insights, your experience with all of us. And this is Billy Keels, everybody, with the Going Long podcast, and looking forward to you joining us on the next episode. Make it a great day. Wow. Don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? When I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.